It's your boy. Got a good episode for you guys this week. I figured we'd get into some. I know you guys enjoy the Cosa Nostra stuff, so I'm going to tell you about a situation when a place opens and some of the guys are with one family and some of the guys are with another family. I'm going to break the whole thing down for you. So, a strip club's opening up in Queens called Cityscapes. It's in Long Island City. Now, there's a thing with a place, right? There's a guy who gets the girls, and then there's the guy who gets the cabaret license, liquor, DJ, is a bunch of stuff involved with that. So, the guy who's opening the place most likely is around somebody. It just happened to be that the guys, because there was two of them, that had the girls, legitimate company. You know, these girls would come in as dancers, get hired, and they worked for these two gentlemen. They ran a nice organization, but one of them was with the Bonanno family, and one of them, somebody in the Gambino family had did a favor for, so it kind of put him a little bit with the Gambino family. The politics are very interesting when they want them to be. Plus, the guy in the place also was 1 foot in, 1 foot out with the Bonanno family and the Gambino crime family. So, automatically, Ronnie won on the places with him. The guys are with him that have the girls. The guy that has the places with him. That seems to work for a little while because it also belongs to a Bonanno captain named Johnny Joe Spirito. Now, Johnny Joe Spirito isn't a guy that you play with at all. It's not even, he's just a Mad Hatter. You know, if I could put it best for you, this guy is the real deal. He has a son by the same name. He's a Mad Hatter as well. And from my understanding, he's also a member of Cosa Nostra as well. When this was all going on, he was doing a 20-plus year bid on something that he had done when he was younger up in the Bronx. I'm sure when he came home, they straightened him out, the whole 9 yards like that. Johnny Joe was away towards the end of his bid. When I was starting mine, and a lot of my co-defendants were starting theirs. He had a tough personality, he had a tough reputation in federal prison, and he was known as a Mad Hatter on the streets. So, the guys running the girls, one of them were with Johnny Joe, the place was with Johnny Joe, just like the place was with Ronnie One Arm, and the guy that ran the girls were with Ronnie One Arm. Now, again, legitimate business guys, ran a legitimate business. Women would come in to audition, to dance, and, you know, they would get, like everybody else, hired or not hired. It would up and up, legitimate operation. But in that business, especially the strip club business, there could be other crime families, crew members, maid guys that are going to walk in there and, you know, look to take a piece of the joint. So if you're with somebody or somebody did you a favor, usually you go to them for their blessing. And their blessing is also, there'll be an envelope. However, they're going to work it out weekly, monthly, at Christmas. Usually it's weekly in a situation like that, or monthly. And I'm with you guys. And we just want the place to be on record with the Gambinos. And I'm sure his counterpart, who was with Johnny Joe, said, I'd like for this place to be on record with you and have your blessing. You're in Queens, and Queens was Bonanno and Gambino territory. Other families were there as well, but they had a huge presence, and they had a huge presence in the strip club scene. Very huge presence. Mostly, I think maybe the only one was the guy from Jersey who had one on Queens Boulevard, to be named at a different date. Yes, he had one. That was okayed. He actually used to frequent the place. I know a lot of people that just knew him from coming by going in there and hanging out. It was across the street from another old strip club that was with the Gambinos as well. So, Cityscapes now. Johnny Joe has good friend, also a member of Cosa Nostra, called him Little Anthony. Little Anthony Wasn't like Johnny Joe, but commanded respect and fear in people, just like any strong soldier would. More of an approachable person, nice personality. The few times that I got to spend around him, I thought he was just a really nice guy for Cosa Nostra. And then I seen the power that he wielded. He was a serious guy, just as serious as Johnny Joe, just a little bit more low key. Johnny Joe was definitely a Mad Hatter. I know there's stories that can go back with him to the Purple Gang and the Tanglewood Boys, and a bunch of stories up there in the Bronx and Harlem. That's for historians to look into. I could tell you about what I witnessed and what I've seen, and he had a lot of power. And Ronnie One Arm was one of the Gambino crime family's most powerful captains, if not the power. The power in that family in Queens. Yeah, for that era, I would say so. So, Johnny Joe gets pinched on a case. Everything's going smooth. The Bananos get their end. The Gambinos get their end. Johnny Joe and Ronnie are working well together. Ronnie and Little Anthony get well very good together. Very well together. Every time I didn't frequent strip clubs, so that was like a scene that was like a must for me to go. I would go. Other than that, I try to really not be out on those nights. So the few times I was with him in that situation, it was a lot more than a few times, but in that situation, the few times that I was around him and Little Anthony were always drinks, pleasantries, and all good between the Bananas and the Gambinos. And I'm pretty sure that when it was about to go sideways, it was probably just going to stay within that fraction of the Gambino family and that fraction of the Bonanno family. I don't think anybody else in both families would have got involved to a certain length. I know people think that how these things work, when you're playing with guys that stand up for themselves and don't go to the table for every little thing, they usually handle their business in the streets. And that could be in a strip club, but usually not at the table. So a lot of things got settled over a drink, private room, back of the kitchen, certain issues that we came across. And you could see a lot where Ronnie was getting along well with Little Anthony, but how he would bump heads with Johnny Joe. And Johnny Joe didn't frequent Cityscapes a lot. Ronnie loved strip clubs, so of course he was there as much as possible. And it was new. The place was with him. He didn't care who else had a piece of the place. The place was with him. He was getting what he wanted out of it. And you know what? Everybody knew Cityscapes was with Ronnie. Regardless if it was with anybody else, you knew that was Ronnie One Arm's joint. That's it. So, Johnny Joe is about to go away on a case. 20 plus years, I think, something like that. Big numbers on a Fed case. Like I said, he's home now. Hopefully he's retired, sitting back, enjoying his life. So he was going away, and he just came home from that bid. So he was making a power move because he thought, in the eyes of where we were standing and looking from, that we would make a power move once he went to jail and push the Bonanno family out of Cityscapes. So, nicely, but I guess in the Cosa Nostra way, it was put to, no, everything will be just fine, envelopes will be there, and Little Anthony was going to step in for Johnny Joe as well. And he wound up getting pinched and getting 20 years on something in the feds, and he wound up going away as well, as did Ronnie. Wind up, blowing trial in Miami, getting 20, then going to Tampa and getting life. So everybody wound up going to jail eventually. But at this moment, Johnny Joe was the only one going away, and he didn't want, Ronnie and, his crew moving in and pushing the Bananos out and, taking a bigger piece of the pie, which something I can guarantee. Ronnie never took a bigger piece of the pie. If he was supposed to get something, that's what he got. And all these people you would hear around the neighborhood talking, oh, Ronnie's involved, he's got his hand in our pockets, oh my God. No. If Ronnie was going to settle a beef for somebody and collect money for them or get something back for them, he gave that back to the person. Don't get me wrong, if it was a street guy and a street guy had to get money, yes, an end went to Ronnie. But if a legitimate person got beat out of something or somebody had to get money that really was like a half-ass street guy or just as a favor, I've watched it, he'd give it back, the whole amount. And he'd go out and do the favor. How you seen The Godfather at the wedding, how he has to accept the presence or the invite of somebody to come and talk to him. That's the way Ronnie One-Arm held court in Aldo's 1 and Aldo's 2. He'd sit in his chair, and people would come there all day long asking for favors. These are a lot of lessons that I had learned were from sitting there with him, watching this. And now before I was in there watching this happen, I would hear stories. And the stories were how Ronnie had his hands in people's pockets, Ronnie was shaking people down. And of course, that wasn't the case. Come to find out, none of the store owners was getting shaken down. Aldo's didn't get shaken down. Ronnie wasn't beating people for money. Ronnie was helping people in the neighborhood. He was. People would come from Howard Beach, Woodhaven, Richmond Hill, Queens, East New York, black, Spanish. It didn't make it what race they were, Muslim. Ronnie definitely didn't discriminate against anybody. He'd help anybody if they asked him to. He wanted to be known for that. That he helped. He didn't realize behind his back, the whole neighborhood would be walking on eggshells if they know they had to go have a meeting with Ronnie over somebody they just beat or robbed. Because that's the part that they got. So he'd go in the back of Aldo's or downstairs in the basement or to the side, and these people would ask for favors, or he'd send for people, and that's where people would come to meet him. And you would always say, I got to go to Aldo's. And I've heard serious guys that would be like, nervous about having to go see Ronnie and Aldo's. So witnessing it and seeing how it was, Ronnie never took a bigger piece of the pie. Ronnie never took a lot that he probably could have. He truly did help a lot of people that came to him and asked him for help. And I heard something like this with Tony Salerno in Harlem. He used to still have the club there, and all the old timers and the old ladies would come into his social club and ask for favors and things going around the neighborhood. And we all know Don Carlo, until he passed, was in Ferraro's Bakery every day like clockwork. They pick him up, sit there. All people would come from the neighborhood to see him and ask him for favors. So maybe this was a pattern within Cosa Nostra. I watched it for years as a kid, growing up in City Line, going into Aldo's every day as a kid, and then being around Ronnie on a more friendly basis, seeing it, and then witnessing it. He didn't take more than he was supposed to. So we get more into other stories with Ronnie and the sit-downs and him holding court at Aldo's. And we're going to get back to how they thought he was going to take a bigger piece of the pie. So Johnny Joe, being a Mad Hatter, because he was going to just push Ronnie out. Yeah, that's... Guy's getting older. Maybe you're not respecting his reputation. Maybe you don't think he's got a reputation. Maybe you think his reputation is bullshit because maybe you got so much more work put in than him. I don't know what goes through these guys' minds that a Mad Hat is. So he tried it somewhat, because when Ronnie made his move back, they retreated like they weren't. So there was supposed to be a time and place. They were going to approach Ronnie and tell him, meaning inside Cityscapes was the place where he usually sits. They were going to approach him at a certain time, a certain day, and tell him that his presence was no longer welcomed here. So he got wind of it. He got another, neighborhood Mad Hatter that was around him, Johnny Bandana, another guy. I was present on this day as well, and they strapped up, bulletproofed up, pistoled up, Ronnie himself, ready to go. And they went up into Cityscapes. I went earlier in the day. I stood at the bar. There's like a lounge area. You could go sit in seats and couches and armchairs like that. And then you either sit at the bar where they would dance and the waitresses. It's kind of like in a square. So I was at the bar, and I don't drink. So I was drinking Coors Lights because that's like the water beers. So I was just drinking Coors Lights little by little. I recognized one face come up. I know he's got a vest on, so I know he's strapped up. I recognize a few guys from the Bronx. There was a few guys there. So it's on. I know it's going to be on. And then Ronnie comes strolling in. I didn't know the position that Johnny Bandana was going to play inside Cityscapes. I knew they had another shooter in there. So I didn't know if he was going to post up alone, come in by himself, come in after. He winds up coming in with Ronnie. They come up the stairs. So none of us, nobody says hello, nobody acknowledges each other. I knew the person that was at the other end, more kind of towards the DJ booth. And when you come up the stairs, the bar's right there, so I was right to the right, just acting like a regular guy, having a beer, throwing some singles around. And they come walking up the stairs together. I know he's not wearing a vest, but he's strapped up. Because he's a really big guy. It would have really been noticeable. And I've seen him in a vest before. It'd have to be the dead winter with a jacket on. So yeah, and they go up the stairs. They sit at the couch. They post up. I know both of them are strapped up. I know the other guy that Ronnie has there strapped up. I'm sitting at the bar. I seen, like I said, it might have been 2 or 3 guys that I noticed. 2 definite were from the Bronx. They were definitely Banano guys. And then Johnny Joe and Little Anthony come walking in. And this is where it all could have went south. And who knows, any of us would be here telling this story, coming home from jail, doing jail time right now if things would have went differently. But they didn't. Maybe Little Anthony talked to Johnny Joe and said that he would make sure, or they kind of knew and seen the power that Ronnie had, and I couldn't tell you what was said while Ronnie was sitting there, but it was 2 captains, a made guy, and Johnny Bandana. And this is what I always try to explain to you guys. The rules apply when people in that life want them to apply. Because there was many nights that otherwise guys were waiting for me to get up when I was sitting next to Ronnie. And Ronnie made sure they knew that I wasn't going anywhere. And in that situation, I see the other guy creeping closer towards them 4 that came, that's with Johnny Bandana and Ronnie. And I'm paying close attention while I'm speaking to the bartender. And they start talking. And I could see that they were probably waiting for Ronnie to excuse John because he's not a friend. And Ronnie never excuses him. That to them, that tells him, I trust him enough that you can speak in front of him. Bottom line. He doesn't have to be a friend. And they did. And they came up with a solution, which I found out later on, after we all left, that things were going to stay the same. Johnny Joe's taken Ronnie's word on a handshake that the Gambinos will not push out the Bananos once he goes to jail, and it's just Little Anthony there. They held their ground in their position, and Ronnie held his, that, I'm not going nowhere, and I'm not going to take anything that isn't mine. And that's exactly how Cityscapes got split up. And Ronnie kept to his word until, everybody else got pinched and went away. And, I know the place is still open to this day. And listen, you had two guys, one known to be a Mad Hatter, another one to be known as a Mad Hatter in certain circles, and, a strong captain. And there were shooters in that place, and everything could have went bad for a lot of people. And I'm glad it went the right way, that I'm here and I'm able to tell the story, because you don't know what could have happened, just being in a situation like that, in a place like that. And you got to be ready, able to answer when they call. And it don't make a difference if you're on record, if you're an associate, if you're a friend, if you've been around most of your life and you're known to be respectful and stand up and do the right thing, and you get called on, that's the kind of situation you get yourself put in. Now, there's been situations that guys walked in clubs with machine guns and took places over, and guys didn't make it out, and the situation, I could tell you, was a hairline fracture close to a break of being an all-out war. And would it have caused repercussions between both families? Ronnie and his regime, they were on top, so that definitely would have been. Johnny Joe was about to start 20 years, 20 plus, whatever it was. His son was a Mad Hatter, was coming home, so there could have been a lot of things that went wrong. And now, this is how it happens in Cosa Nostra in certain circles. Now, I don't speak of other circles. I can only speak of what I've seen and what I've witnessed. One guy that was part of a business with another guy was with Ronnie. The other guy was with Johnny Joe, and all made the place a Bonanno Gambino place. People talk and ask me all the time about territory and neighborhoods, and you could say that it's a majority Gambino or Bonanno neighborhood, but there's Lucchese's and Genevieve's and Colombo guys there. There was always a presence of the five families. Right down Queens Boulevard from Cityscapes was a Jersey guy's place. The guy Osha. Well, we could get into that story one day. He had the respect of the five families to open a strip club across the street from where they had a successful strip club for years, the Gambino family. And he was able to come in and open up in the heart of Cosa Nostra, of the five families on Queens Boulevard, for strip clubs. I mean, I don't think anywhere else you would get an okay, but he was liked. Some loved him in the circle, and he opened a business, and nobody gave him a problem or a headache. And a lot of Gambino crew members, associates, hung out there for years. And there was, even if there was a beef or an issue, one thing I can tell you, like, you're never supposed to get, if you know it's a wise guy's joint or a made guy's place, or it's with somebody and you get into a fight and they know that, it could be a problem. I could tell you one thing, the guy never went to the table. He's went to the table over a few things, but if there was a little scrap up, little mix up, bounces, patrons fighting, neighborhood kids fighting, a lot of things got overlooked. And those are the type of wise guys and Cosa Nostra members you want to be in their establishment. You don't want these guys that go to the table for every little thing, And Cityscapes got, ran by the Gambinos and Bananos for years. After a while, even Little Anthony stopped going there, and people just knew it as Ronnie's place. But the Bananos got their end till we all got pinched, and this whole thing that we had going on for years ended. Friendships, brotherhood, gone, flushed down the toilet. And that's how situation where people always ask, how do they carve up territory? They don't. It's always somebody that's with somebody. It could have been the guy that owned the land was around the Bonanno, but the guy who was running the business was with the Gambino family. That's just how it works. And sometimes, and I tell you this, people won't go to war over money, but over disrespect they will. If they were breaking even on the joint and it wasn't doing good, but on general principle that they were trying to take it over, they were going to go to the mattresses. They would have went to war with each other. 100%. I've seen it. Guys were strapped. Guys were ready to go. So that's my story for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll be coming back with live on Sundays. Stay up. Jindan.